research. Here's your topic sentence. DNA fingerprinting is also being used in many other ways. Here's your concluding sentence. As it becomes increasingly popular, DNA fingerprinting will be used for many other purposes in the future. Here are your details. Chefs in India, to identify specific types of rice, they can then cook each type correctly. Medical researchers, to identify different strains of bacteria so they can fight food-related illnesses. Archaeologists, to help piece together the remains of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Emergency personnel, to help identify family members who have been separated from one another because of wars or natural disasters. When you're finished, come back. Here's my answer. Notice the variety that I used in word choice, sentence length, order, and style. DNA fingerprinting is also being used in many other ways. For example, in India, chefs are using it to identify specific types of rice so they know how to cook each type correctly. Medical researchers have used DNA tests to identify different strains of bacteria so they can fight food-related illnesses more effectively. DNA fingerprinting has also been used by emergency personnel to help identify family members separated from one another because of wars or natural disasters. Archaeologists are even using this powerful tool to help them piece together the Dead Sea Scrolls. As it becomes increasingly popular, DNA fingerprinting will be used for many other purposes in the future. So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and write a paragraph around this topic sentence. What was one cause of the French Revolution? Then come back. Here's my answer. It's likely not to be the same as yours because we both had to do research and perhaps my research was a little different than yours. Historians still debate the causes of the French Revolution, the bloody conflict that shattered the regime of King Louis XVI in 1789, but they generally agree on the influence of the Enlightenment. That's my topic sentence, and notice how specific it is. I used the word bloody to describe the conflict. I used regime. I used King Louis, specific, I gave his number, and 1789. Now I'm talking about the Enlightenment, so now I need some specific examples. As a result of the writing of the Enlightenment philosophers Voltaire, Diderot, and Turgot, the growing middle class, the bourgeoisie, and the peasants came to believe in individual equality and freedom. I give 3 examples of famous Enlightenment writers. I use the term bourgeoisie because that was the term used to describe the middle class at this time. I mentioned the peasants, and I mentioned individual equality and freedom. The success of the American Revolution demonstrated to them that Enlightenment ideals about democratic governments could indeed be put into practice. Thus, the Enlightenment was one of the crucial factors that caused the French Revolution. So I have 2 examples in there. I have the writing of the Enlightenment philosophers, and I have the American Revolution. I have a topic sentence, which is my first sentence, and I have a conclusion, which is my last sentence. Now let's take a quick look at conclusions. Conclusions are sentences that draw together the main ideas. They leave the reader with a sense of completion. That's because they're logical and they tie up all the loose ends. Conclusions are not announcements of what you have accomplished, as in this essay, I have proven that fungi are beneficial. You don't want to make a public service announcement like that. You don't want to make a sweeping generalization either. All forms of alternative medicine should be avoided, because you can't prove that all forms of alternative medicine should be avoided. That's too big a statement for a paragraph. You also don't want to give an absolute claim. Never believe what you hear in the media, for example, because that you also cannot prove in your paragraph. And last, you don't want to give an apology. Even though I may not have supplied enough information, I hope that you still learned something useful from my paragraph. Don't apologize for your writing because that weakens your main idea. Effective concluding sentences do not introduce any new information. And as we said, they don't announce anything, they don't make generalizations, they don't make absolute claims, and they don't offer apologies. Good concluding sentences can take different forms, of course, just like topic sentences. You can restate the main idea, you can give your opinion, and you can make a call for action. You would restate the main idea primarily in expository essays, the essays that explain. You would give your opinion and a call for action in persuasive essays. I explain each method and give examples in Program 7, Introductions and Conclusions. So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and explain why the underlined concluding sentence is not effective. Then come back. This is not an effective conclusion because it is an announcement of what you have accomplished, and you don't want to do that. In this paragraph, I have explained reasons why some birds have become extinct. You've announced what you've done. Your reader knows that, so you don't have to announce it. This doesn't leave your reader with a sense of conclusion, a sense of things being drawn together, a sense of satisfaction. So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and choose the best new concluding sentence for the same paragraph. Then come back. All animals are going to become extinct unless we do something soon. Well, all animals are not going to become extinct. Some may be endangered. Some may be actually becoming extinct, but not all animals. So this is a sweeping generalization. You don't want to do that because this is not true. Number 2, I may not have discussed enough animals in danger of extinction, but I hope that you believe me anyway. Well, this is an apology. You don't want to apologize for what you've done because that makes your reader think that you really haven't accomplished very much in your paragraph. Number 3, read on to learn the stories behind 3 extinct birds, a warning for all animals in danger of disappearing. This is the best answer because it sums up the main idea and it makes us want to read on to the next paragraph. So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and explain why the underlined concluding sentence is not effective. Then come back. This is not an effective conclusion because it is another sweeping generalization. You cannot conclude this from the information provided. All of Picasso's paintings are violent. Well, they're not all violent, but even if they are all violent, you don't know that from the information given in this particular paragraph because this paragraph talks about only one of Picasso's paintings. So this is not a valid answer. So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and choose the best new concluding sentence for this paragraph. Then come back. Number 1. Maybe you want to learn more, but I gave as much information as I had, and it wasn't that easy to find facts about an old painting. Well, this is not a particularly good ending for 2 reasons. First of all, it's an apology. And second of all, you're sort of whining about it. It wasn't that easy to find facts. This will not work because your reader will feel not my fault that you couldn't find facts. So rather than leaving your reader feeling satisfied, you're going to leave your reader feeling annoyed that you couldn't get the information that you needed. Number 2, in this paragraph, I have shown the reasons why Picasso painted Guernica. This is an announcement of what you've accomplished. Remember, an announcement is not the same as a conclusion. You don't want to give a public service statement. Instead, you want to tie it all up. Number 3, Picasso's famous mural shows the horror and the chaos of war. This is clearly the best answer because it sums up the main ideas in a logical and an accurate way. You showed how Picasso's famous mural showed the horrors and the chaos of war. You're not apologizing, you're not making any kind of sweeping generalizations, and you're not whining about the difficulty of finding the information that you needed. Now, what makes an effective paragraph? Well, good paragraphs are logical, unified, coherent, and fully developed. Let's look at each quality in turn. First of all, you want your paragraphs to be logical. And what this means is basically you make sense. You don't have any logical fallacies or errors in logic. You use valid evidence to back up your assertions. You distinguish between facts and opinions. You analyze cause and effect correctly. And most important of all, as we said earlier, you make sense. Let's take a look at each one of these things in detail. Let's start with logical fallacies. A logical fallacy is an error in reasoning. It can be accidental or it can be deliberate, but in either case, it weakens your writing because it undermines your credibility. Ambiguity is confusion. And as a logical fallacy, when you use ambiguity, what you're doing is you're deliberately using a word or an expression that is confusing because it has more than one meaning. Here's an example. As Americans, we have the right to pursue happiness, and we should want to do what is right. So let's make happiness our life's goal. The word right has 2 different meanings in this sentence. As Americans, we have the right to pursue happiness. Well, the right means that we have the ability to pursue happiness. And we should want to do what is right. Well, that doesn't mean ability. We should want to do what is correct or proper. So we're muddying the water by using the same word in 2 different senses that don't fit together. You can also create a logical fallacy by arguing to the person. An argument to the person occurs when you attack the person rather than the topic. For example, Mayor Green's proposal to widen the streets should be voted down. After all, this is the same woman who has declared bankruptcy twice. Well, whether or not Mayor Green has declared personal bankruptcy has absolutely no impact upon their proposal to widen the streets. And by attacking the person rather than the plan to widen the streets, you undermine your own credibility because you're not arguing the issue that's on the table. You can also create a logical fallacy by begging the question, which is also called circular reasoning. When you beg the question, what you do is you state your claim, and then you offer proof that is exactly the same as the claim. So you're not really offering any proof, you're simply going around in a circle and saying the same thing over and over. For example, Janice is such a good person because she is so virtuous. Well, by definition, a good person is virtuous. So you're offered no proof. You're simply saying she's good and she's good. Using a synonym or a different word with the same meaning does not offer any proof. There are other logical fallacies as well. For example, you can make a bogus claim. The word bogus means fake, so a bogus claim is a claim that is not valid. For example, you may have seen this kind of thing on late night TV. With these diet pills, you can lose 5 pounds a day without having to exercise. Well, we know that's bogus because there is no pill that you can lose 5 pounds a day without exercising. Even with exercising, you probably can't lose 5 pounds a day, so that's a bogus claim. Card stacking